You're live. Thank you.
Is that in here?
Mm-hmm.
I thought I read everything.
No.
See, that's the,
No, this is.
Change it what?
Oh, that
Thing
is.
about the taxes
yeah, the
getting
mobile
high.
home
Is that
wasn't in
something
that
that you
package.
control?
You did commercial.
It's,
Okay, yeah.
Well,
So
they're in
when-
the county, so,
So
We
it's
do
not-
the agenda.
Okay.
I don't know why I did that.
yeah, that one piece.
Because under mobile home?
That's
Yeah.
not something
We
we.
can
Okay.
just change that to.
Okay.
I'll mention that before the agenda.
Even in bigger.
I was gonna say, I was
I had it on
trying
there.
to read that one real careful before I.
Well, I had it on there.
Yeah. But we don't have it yet, do we?
No, I already did the mobile home last time.
Mostly.
You got a draft
So
of
it was
that.
maybe when I was doing.
Yeah, you were gone.
Yeah, they'll pay.
Yeah.
Justin's.
Okay.
I thought you
But
were.
we didn't
referring to
pass.
like the state
Right.
No, you didn't pass it.
No, sorry, I was
Yeah.
looking through that and I thought, well, that's odd, because I
I
didn't
Oh,
think we
sorry.
affected the taxes on
I just handed it out so everybody would have it. So,
Okay.
this is good.
I'll mention that.
Because it's pretty.
Is it the same one that from the county or what? I think I read it the first time.
I did. Dinner you like. Oh, you said it. Yeah, you're there. You are there. Nothing wrong.
Just over here, right?
Yes. I didn't hear it.
I'm not feeling for that. Some time off.
Yeah.
It should be.
Need to do it. We got 3 people. Why is it so? All right, so you stand for pledge allegiance. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Call to order. Okay. November 25th, 2019. Let's see. Jim?
Here.
Brett?
Here.
And Annie is here. But should I wait? I'll call her there. Annie? Uh-huh. Brett? And Justin? Here. And Brad?
Yes.
Before you guys adopt the agenda, the mobile home ordinance, that should be changed to, commercial building ordinance. which is in the
Residing in
packet.
commercial buildings.
Sorry about that.
Okay.
I wondered what was going on there.
Yeah,
Okay.
sorry.
We got the tax ordinance, right?
Yeah, I did. I added that.
Mhm.
Okay.
Okay, I move to approve the agenda with the correction of mobile home ordinance to commercial building ordinance. Second.
All in favor?
Move to approve the minutes of November 12th.
Okay.
All
I
in
will-
favor?
Two with the corrections that I sent you.
With what?
Okay. Yeah.
What was that?
Brett sent me corrections.
Something I missed, I read it.
It was something that he wanted me to add. About the budget being passed. The accountant was included in discussion and her thoughts as well. So just some comments that Brett had made that he would like added to the agenda.
For the minutes.
Okay. My motion,
I'll still second.
All in favor?
I'll move to adopt the appropriation ordinance 1468.
I'll second.
Okay, Tim,
Yes.
Annie,
Yes.
Yes.
Justin,
Yes.
Brett.
Yes.
Any public concerns and comments?
I just
Marcia?
wanted to thank, whomever. I called Drew personally and thanked him, and he replied. And he thanked me for thanking him because he says no one ever thanks the city officials, or employees for doing anything. He dug that ditch out almost the entire way down. We had one rain, it was an inch, wasn't a lot, but it seemed to divert more down that way than down toward Fifth Street. So that should help alleviate both sides, and we'll just keep an eye on it and see if that fixes the problem. It's better than we've ever had in the 23 years I've been there, so I'm willing to give that a go. So, like I said, I called him. We were gone the day he did it and out of town for 2 days, doctor's appointment, so I was a little late, but it's done, and we'll see how it goes.
Well, Marcia, hope that works out for you, and
I hope
thank
it
you for showing your appreciation to our.
Yeah.
And I do too,
Yeah.
on a regular basis. I have to, because I just keep screwing up. Any other concerns or comments? Yes?
City Council and Mayor, my name is Dennis Richter, 387 Lake Shore
If
Drive.
this is about the docks and fees and things,
Yes,
it's on the agenda. And so if we could keep those comments until that time, I'd appreciate it.
I can do that.
Thank you. We'll move real swiftly along here so that we get to it. Any others?
Is Mike gonna be
He's
there?
not.
Okay. Department reports,
I'll work for
Stephanie?
him.
The only thing I have, you guys, I printed off the permit, totals for this year. So it's broken out. First page is fishing, the total is at the end of that page, and then boating and then camping. And then everyone did receive a request. And I printed that off for you guys. Basically, we have an ordinance, 507. You can look at this form stating that any open public record is a charge to whoever is requesting that, $15 per hour and then 25 cents per page. He's asking if you will waive that fee. He's wanting basically a breakdown of all of the contractual services and commodities as I took it that were spent in the lake fund in 2018. That will take some time because the only thing that I can print off of our system is basically, it's a memo saying so I'll have to go through invoices and
I would say now the fee's there.
Well, that is, there's two levels to that. One being, the rule is that you can just, if it's readily available to you, it's just like a copy of an ordinance, that's supposed to be free except for the minor copying charge. There shouldn't be any research for somebody to look up something you should have right there. If they're asking you to research to locate a specific group of documents that can't just be, right there in the file, then the research fee goes into effect. And yeah, it could be waived. Certainly that's in your discretion, but what you're describing is probably not a simple process. You know, sometimes it may take a little bit more work, but not, you know, that much more, and it seems like maybe 15 would be unfair. In this instance, you know, you are probably involved in, you're gonna have to look up all these documents, and that's the next step is you're not required to create a document for the information that they request, meaning it's perfectly acceptable for you basically to print out the raw data. I mean, as far as,
We sent out like a revenue and expense spreadsheet for 2018, and they wanted it more broken out, like what specifically is, like came out of everything that was.
well,
contract
unless
services and commodities.
that's some way, you know, you can pull that from the document, I mean, the Excel spreadsheet.
Mhm.
If you could do that, then maybe that's possible, but if you have to go then to your files and pull out all the, you know, receipts you have for that month, and, you know, that's a whole different story. And putting it in there, if you just have to give them the background information, that's still the research fee problem.
Well, could we, go ahead with the taking up over time, but maybe forgive the copy, the 25 cents per page? I mean, cause if they're being charged for her time, then we could maybe pay for the paper?
If we filed anything with the state as like a transactional level audit for 2018, that would have the detailed transactions, and then they're free to go do their own research.
I mean, or
All that stuff
like,
is-
well, it wouldn't.
I
be-
wouldn't think transactional, but that was kind of
No, just our, you know.
I don't know why-
it would be
Annual.
categorized just like what you put together.
I think I mean, the question is basically, we don't have any feel for the amount of time it would take to do this.
I don't know.
And so, you know, if you waive it in advance, then you're kind of signing up for a ticket that nobody knows the price of. The way it's done is that there's a, you know, either it's paid up front or some form of deposit is made that's satisfactory, and you go to work, but it's usually, I mean, that's just what it is. So, when you're allowed to do it, you're allowed to waive it. You can't say either way, but that's just discretion.
We talked about hiring someone to make copies of our information and stuff like that, and
Well, this would be something.
oh,
would have to
I
do.
understand
Yeah.
that. I understand that. But it just sounds like we need to maybe move along and get this important information where you can access it so much easier. So this is one more reason why we should do that. So eventually we're going to find out what it costs for the machine, and then we can,
Well, yeah. And
yeah.
this is just bills. I mean, this is
All right, do you want to do this, or do you want to waive it, or do you want to waive the 25 cents per page? Or
I
not?
don't wanna waive anything.
I think it's there for a reason.
You
set it there for a reason. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
did all 1, 2, 3. All right.
That's all I have.
Thank you, Stephanie.
Mhm.
And did Mike give you anything in
He
particular?
did not.
All right. And so request some work orders?
No.
Okay. No, that's all right. Your city business, 424 East Flint Hills Drive, Woodward to, let's see.
Yes. So just a dock transfer.
I'll move to approve.
Second.
All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. Late fees. All right, we will now entertain, does the council have anything to say that before we get into the conversation with the, or do we want to hear what they have to say first?
I prepared a statement. I can read it anytime, so I don't care. Either way.
All right,
I think
Justin,
we should close with you.
that would be good. Yeah, because I have some comments too, because I did a little bit of thought on that too. So, Mr. Richter?
Okay, again, my name is Dennis Richter, 387 Lake Shore, Kansas. I've always had a problem with that, you know, the desperate as far as I'm concerned. I attempted to mail each of you a letter. You may have gotten it, or I emailed it to the clerk to disseminate as well. If you did not get it, I have extra copies. I'm not gonna bore you with that. You already had time to read it for several days. But I do have a couple of additional, thoughts on the process. I saw an unofficial, report of revenue and expenses for 2018. And, obviously, based on that, it's apparent that there was not enough revenue to support the expenses. I want to point out that 2018, as most of us should know, was a very severe drought year. I would think that that impacted some of the revenue to some degree. So keep that in mind. Hopefully we won't have that again, but I think, dealing with nature, we're obviously susceptible to that as well. The other thought that's crossed my mind, and I don't know, I'm not asking for an answer, but, I'm throwing it out there because I think it needs to be considered and thought of, is, are there dock fees that go unpaid year to year?
No.
Everybody that gets a bill pays the fee.
Mhm.
Okay. Well, that's good. So that negates one of my concerns. The other is other fees associated with boating, kayaks, people fishing. It's kind of an honor system. I personally have observed people, and it's actually lake residents, and it's also people who may this weekend do this. If I've got a pontoon boat on the lake, I'm not checking that thing in and out of the boathouse every year like I do with my boat. So it goes unpoliced whether or not it has a permit. So I may not use it all year, and at Labor Day weekend decide, hey, I'm going to take my pontoon boat out. I'm not going to go buy a permit. One day deal, overlook it, no big deal. I'm sure that that's being used. I don't think there's anything in place that you have that's going to police that. The other concern is people that just come for a day or a weekend. They're pulling over by the park, the east of the camping area, the improved camping area, and they're unloading their kayaks. I'm all for it, but I doubt that they're checking in and buying a day permit or 2 day permit or whatever. And again, there's nobody policing that, and that's lost revenue. So I don't know how you address it. I don't know how you deal with it, but I think it's something that needs to be taken into the equation when you're looking at the rest of the proposed increase. So that's all I have. Thank you for your time. And Mr. Rush, for you, it's just one quick thing. Mr. Orton had a copy of something from a couple of weeks ago. I'd like to get a copy of that if I can.
Okay.
I have.
The proposed,
I have.
Yep.
I don't know if you have some made up. for-
Yeah,
for-
I do. I can
Yeah.
All right,
get it to you.
thank you.
A thought I had when I was reading your letter was the fact that in the past, we have had an officer that worked for the city of Eskridge, and we have talked about trying to get revenues put together so that we can have our own officer again. And part of what I was going to suggest to the council was we use some of the fees that we collect out there, maybe the extra fees that we're going to start collecting this year towards paying for an officer out there, especially in the summertime when we have the most offenses. I heard a lot of comments this summer about people not doing the wake thing. They go into the coves and they would be going too fast, and it caused problems with children and people swimming, and it was dangerous besides. And we have talked about the fact that we would like to have policing out there. And that's one thing that we could do, because we've had a little bit of trouble with some of our young people in town and some of our older people in town at night. And if we had a full-time officer that we could afford, we could share them with the lake and have them police once again out of the lake and take complaints and follow through. Also, I know that we're going to push harder to get our boats registered for everybody. And they're talking about putting, well, I think, have we sent that letter out yet? Well, there's just going to be different ways that we're going to identify people in their permits to make sure that's done, and so that isn't lost revenue. But that, it was a thought that I had and that I was going to, and I'll discuss it again at like with the council, because everything takes a discussion. But yes, go ahead, sir.
Just a quick response to that. I appreciate that comment because I was here a couple of years ago and expressed the same concern about the safety on the water. And of course, then it didn't rain for 12 months and then the lake went down 4 feet, so I didn't come back. But this year, the three main times to do that are the holidays. The police.
Yes, sir.
That's the most important time because of the number of people there. But I personally have gone on my dock, taken my cell phone down at the guidance of the local wildlife parks representative, and I will take a picture with my cell phone, and as long as I have a boat number or a jet ski number that they can associate that with, they have contacted them and they will follow up. But it shouldn't be my job to do that, to prevent, this speeding up and down coves. And it's too bad that boaters, and this is not the city or anybody else, I just,
Yeah.
Public comment.
I totally
It's too
agree.
bad that voters can't be more responsible and obey the signs.
Well, and I think that sometimes if you have some reinforcements, that people do better, and like today here in town, we had a young man going crazy with his very, very loud motorcycle, and I, being the mayor, I tracked him down and had a conversation with him, encouraged him not to do that again. So we'll see how that works. But that's not really for me to do. I'm 70 years old. I shouldn't be too pushy on those subjects. And this is a very nice young man, but he sure had a noisy motorcycle. It was the second day in a row that I heard him tearing around town, so I had to address it. So that's for another story. Does anybody else have any other comments? Go ahead, please. Oh, would y'all identify yourselves, and that would be great.
Keith Smith,
Mr. Smith.
263, sorry. I have a concern that we're tearing down perfectly good docks because somebody moved or something like that. Can't the city lease those to somebody and have revenue on those without having to tear them down? You're losing revenue every time you tear something down. I know one, Richard Lane, where they had to tear a dock down out there, and it was a perfectly good dock, and so that revenue is now off the books. So
I don't think that we've torn down. That's okay. We, if somebody took down a dock, it might have been.
I don't think we have for a long time.
Yeah.
If somebody took down a dock, it would be because they perhaps wanted to put something else in.
They did build another one,
Yeah, but
but
they
you
told
hadn't
tear that one
that
down.
down. You could have rented that out or had it as a same dock.
Their
Okay.
dock.
Did they have two docks before? That was,
No,
Maybe.
they
Oh,
moved
okay.
their dock over to another area, so you made them tear that down, which it could
It
have
was a
been
real
leased.
nice dock.
Leased out from the city to somebody that wanted a dock for the summer or something like that,
they could have very well sold it to
Yeah, they
somebody.
could have
we,
sold it to someone.
I don't think anybody here would have had a problem with that. I don't speak for them, obviously.
I wonder do you think they might have misunderstood us?
I don't know. I can't remember the particular situation with Langworthy's.
But we're not opposed to what you just suggested about, I mean, if somebody has two docks and they need to go to skinny it down to one, they can sell their dock and they just bring it into us and that's unfortunate.
They've done
Yeah.
it before.
But, well, now that it's out there, people will know and perhaps that will carry on. Thank you, Mr. Smith. What was your first name?
I'm Keith.
Keith.
Yeah.
I know. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
Jim Johnson, live at 377 Lakeshore Drive, Alma, Kansas. Again, I think it's same thing. I think it's always sunny. Is that considered an street? Post office, I understand.
Yeah, we didn't have anything to do with that.
But we have two docks and we pay the fees, and we're not opposed, my wife and I are not opposed to an increase. We're opposed to a 20% increase. The council's had several hundred meetings or 100+ meetings in the past to consider annual increases and didn't see the need. So to say now we're going to backdate all this and bring it forward because we didn't do it for a number of years, I think is a poor argument. But I think it's reasonable to have an annual increase because the costs go up. And especially with a small town, it's difficult to meet meet everything, so. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
And we did visit this, situation in 2016 and we didn't take action then. You know, whether or not it's here nor there, but I mean, yeah, if we would have captured 10% then and 10% now, at least it would have been smoother in comparison.
Anybody else? Okay. All right.
If I may, I'd like to address
Of course,
Mr.
Jim.
Richter's concern about the policing on the lake. We have an interesting situation because there are things that the game warden can police and a police officer cannot, and vice versa. Ideally, you would have one person that wore both badges, but we don't have that luxury, nor can we. With these extra revenues, one thing that I personally, and I think the council is with me on this as well, I would like to have an officer that can go out there and patrol, not all the time, but on, you know, the big weekends that you're speaking of. And another thing that we're going to attack, which is what Dolly was hinting to, I want all of the docks to be identified with a number on there. And we have a public officer that is going to go out there and check things out, make sure the docks are, you know, compliant, or, you know, if this property says that there's one shed on the city property and she goes there and sees 3, stuff like that. If there's a pile of kayaks laying there and none of them have a sticker from Lake Wabaunsee, things like that. You are absolutely right. That is a big revenue loss that I believe that we are taking a hit on year after year after year. How we can rein that in, I don't think we ever will completely, but this is what I'm trying. And if you have any suggestions to make it go more smoothly, I'm open anytime you want to contact me and discuss it. So that's kind of the direction that we're moving.
To extend your point about a lake officer, I know we were offered, we were offered a pretty attractive rate, I think $20 an hour for the sheriff's office to come just patrol here around town. And then that offer was found to be no good. And I think they raised the price to $35 an hour. At that point, it became unattractive. But, you know, the fact remains there was still an offer to, you know, for lack of a better term, rent law enforcement from our county sheriff's office. Whether or not we could do that same thing for the lake, if they would have somebody that might be available for lake patrol, that might be something that, you know, might be worth that $35 and or whatever the price is. At that point, they're not using their equipment as much. I would assume they're using a city boat. Maybe we can work something out with them. So
I have been talking with a deputy from Elma who started a police force in Maple Hill, and I've asked him to come in here. I didn't want him to come to this meeting because I wanted to, you know, do this, but I'm going to try and get him in here pretty soon so that we can discuss it. He had an attractive offer that you might like. So when he was going to check out at the county and at that level and then get back with us on what might work for Eskridge, which would be nice to have a little law in this town just for comfort and for.
And we're sitting on an application, aren't we, Stephanie?
He hasn't turned it in.
He
hasn't turned it in yet?
He picked it up, but he hasn't turned it in yet. Otherwise, I would have interviewed him by now and brought him to the council. Ricky Ticky, I would have. So we like that idea that you had, Ms. Richter, and Justin, thank you. I'm glad that you're still thinking about that, and I will set up a meeting, perhaps the very next one that we have. He was going to, I had him scheduled one time and then they had a terrible accident, so he wasn't able to make it. So that does happen with law enforcement out there on I-70. So anybody else? All right, Justin, did you want to read your statement?
Can I ask one
go
additional
ahead.
question, sir?
Yes.
Regarding the proposed increase in fees, is there going to be any wording in there that will allude to the fact that we will revisit this again in, say, 3 years, 5 years, 7 years, 10 years?
No, and there couldn't be really, because this council can't bind other councils. next year, technically, while the election happened, and I think no seats changed hands, there's always the possibility that a year or two from now, there'll be a new council, new persons, new ideas.
You could always schedule a fee increase and pass an ordinance that would have that schedule in there, with, whatever, 2% the next year, and so on and so forth, a 5-year, and like Todd said, I mean, that a new council could tear that up at any time, but,
Yeah, that's true.
I
Absent doing
respectfully
that.
disagree with that because I served 12 years on the school board, and I can tell you that you can implement a 5-year plan, and over that 5 years, you're gonna have people change twice in that
Yeah.
5 years. And I'm not suggesting that you put in there a percentage or anything like that, but I think it would be in the council's best interest to consider, to at least allude to the fact or say that this will be revisited. Doesn't mean you're gonna take any action.
Yeah.
But we're gonna pen it so that the lake people or whoever else is affected don't feel like we've got this shadow over us every year or 2 years or 3 years. It's out on the table. We know what to expect. And if you put in there 2023 or 2025, that would be helpful. You may choose, or the next council may choose something else. I understand that. But your intent is then shown.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. I just don't know what the mechanism would be to remind us. I mean, other than like setting a calendar reminder, something that would actually trigger us to say this is the year that we revisit it. It's not a bad idea at all, but.
Well, I don't, it seems like we haven't worked on this very much, and I think that we could probably work out some sort of a schedule. A percentage every year, and then if it looks reasonable enough to the future councils, then maybe they'll just leave it alone.
Well, yeah, that would be the
not
deal with
do
passing
anything.
a 5-year plan.
You're talking about different things.
Well, it's kind of combining the ideas, but yeah, that's.
Well, I'm just gonna put it out there. I don't think there's any assurance you can give, any way to do exactly what this gentleman is asking to do. I mean, there is no agreement you can make that anybody here should rely on.
Technically, it's not
mean we
really an
shouldn't
agreement.
do
I
it.
mean,
Well, I mean,
it's just non-binding, I think is what you're saying, right?
Well, I would encourage you not to do non-binding things
Yeah.
either.
And I think it's disingenuous to say you're gonna do something over a 5-year plan and turn around and
Yeah.
do a 180 and jack fees up.
Or you don't know what's
50%
gonna come up. I'm just,
Yeah,
and the thing I'm bridling at is that there is in any way a creation of an idea that you guys are going to do something or give them an assurance of any kind, because one, you can't do it. I mean, everyone, for all I know, we may sit here with entirely different people 2 years from now, and they're going to say, what in the world? And they're going to change. They're going to do it on a different night. And now we're going to have people coming and complaining because you said you wouldn't do this. Well, I'm saying
now,
that.
wait a minute, we could at least say that we could be clairvoyant, that we could be sure and notify them if we're making these kind of changes, what we would do anyway, like we did now. I think that there was one night when our cameras weren't working, and we've actually talked about this a few times. But God, I mean, there's some way that we can work with these people that doesn't drive them crazy.
Well, this is not about driving them crazy. This is about them understanding what the law means, which is that there's no promise you can make to them that gives them what they want. And by saying that you are doing it, you are creating the very problem you're trying to avoid. Meaning every meeting that comes forward from this point on, anyone can change any part of the ordinances of the city, anything that we have that's modifiable. And that's everything that's not contrary to uniform state law or the state constitution. And
you understand that, don't you?
Yeah, and that's what I don't want it to become a question. I'm trying to make sure that nobody misunderstands what is said. I have no problem with you saying the intent of the city is to review this every year. For whatever, I mean, nothing, we could raise it, we could lower it, we could, change, add a penny to everything, whatever we wanted to do.
that would be what I would look for too, is,
But-
something like that.
but-
for
That
2
is
years,
just
whatever it
that is not binding upon you guys. If you don't do it, it doesn't matter. If you do it, it doesn't set a precedent. It's just what you're, it's just a very general statement. And the problem is that it's got to be clear to everybody out there on the lakeside that does not mean that you guys don't have to worry about it until that meeting. That may not be the case.
Well, any decisions we make, we'll be sure and put that in front of our lawyers so that we don't get it wrong. Okay, Todd?
That sounds great.
Okay. Our intentions are to do, to raise revenues on our property and to be fair about it, at least for the next 2 years while I'm here. And I'm sure that the people of Eskridge will continue to elect good people but we'll be real clairvoyant and we'll try and make sure the cameras work most of the time. And you always have a representative here that's pretty good at sharing information. So anyway, does anybody on the council have anything else to say, or do we want to hear your statement, Justin?
Mr. Richter, if we forget to raise your rates in 3 years, will you call us?
There you go.
You know, no guarantee I won't be dead.
Oh, please
I'll see what I can do.
try not to do that.
Same for all of us, I suppose.
Yes, ma'am.
Just one
Oh,
question
Lisa.
about, I brought it up at the last meeting when this was discussed with the spreadsheet. Just was any consideration given to increase of the rental house?
We have not discussed any of that.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
okay. It was just on the spreadsheet with the boat fees and the dock fees.
They just,
Yeah, at
we
the last
just, we
meeting-
didn't discuss it last meeting because.
Yeah, because we
of the
wanted
way
to bring it
fell.
here. We
Yeah,
wanted to bring it here tonight.
it was it was on a Tuesday.
Yeah,
instead.
there was a little bit of talk then during the meeting, but I don't think we discussed it. Even though we said this was kind of a hands-off issue last week, the topic did come up, but
I guess I thought-
yeah, I can't remember if that specific caretaker house was discussed.
I don't remember that.
No,
Yeah, okay, well, that's,
okay.
okay,
That's
I
what
couldn't
I thought.
remember if it was here.
Oh, we didn't talk about it then, yeah.
All right.
Now, I'll go ahead here, but, okay, so 80 years ago, the city made a good financial decision, whether it was smart investment or just plain luck, to purchase a WPA project from the federal government that is Lake Wabunsee. Although lots were sold, the city chose not to extend the lots into the immediate lakefront and maintained control several feet around the lake. With docks built on our property, we are effectively the landlord. The city is asking for an increase that is in line with the inflation that occurred since the last dock increase in 2012. It's no secret that property values for lots at the lake derive somewhat from the ability to lease space to put a private dock on city property. We can all think back to several years ago when what property values are at the lake and compare them to what they are now. They've gone up much more than the inflation rate in comparison. The city could decide they want to participate in the success of those property values and push for a raise proportional to what the value of the lot increased over those same timeframes. Instead, we seek to maintain a good relationship with Lake Wabunsee residents. After the decision was made to revisit lake fees a month and a half ago, and after I wrote my proposal, we learned that we were on the hook for $45,000 as a cost share to repave our portion of the road around the lake. This will use up about 3/4 of the projected increase, even though we were just trying to keep up with inflation. We do spend money raised from the lake at the lake. We are looking at $20 per year for most docks than was paid 8 years ago. While we don't expect enthusiastic support from the lake residents in support of our proposal, we do hope they understand. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Justin. Years and years ago, when I came to this community, it was about 50 years ago, telling my age, fell in love with Lake Wabunsee. I was involved with a lot of the discussion of selling the properties out at Lake Wabunsee, and it exploded in a way that I never expected. I thought people would buy homes out there in lots, and it has gone beyond my wildest dreams. And as actually a little bit more than I was kind of hoping for, cabins and things like that. Instead, we have these beautiful homes and people that enjoy it. The lake is our property, and we choose to do the best we can to take care of that lake. We've done the spillway 3 times since I've been here. No, yes, 3 times since I've been here. We encouraged and helped and promoted and used our lawyers and our influence, put sewer, water and everything around the lake because we wanted to make it nice for everybody out there. And it's been a win-win situation for all of us, I think. I enjoy your company and I enjoy the fact that you wave at me when I drive around the lake and stuff. I'm proud of that lake. We're going to try and maintain the north side the best we can to keep it attractive for you and also to hold it off and just use it for the people of Eskridge and you so that it doesn't get any more overcrowded than what it is. I think one of our main responsibilities will be to control a little bit of the activity that goes on to the lake to make it safer and fun for everyone. It's a great lake. It's a beautiful lake. And let us not forget that it's a fishing lake. And we do spend revenue on that. And we had a great study done by Tim and Mike and who was that? Well, anyway, we hired it out and they did a great study for us and gave us a lot of advice on fishery. So there's some things that perhaps you don't think about us spending money on that we actually do. And most of the time we spend it out there. There are some improvements that we would like to do for the lake that will bring in some revenues for us. And I think probably more camping, and we'll be talking about that either tonight and then maybe some more. I don't know if we can get it all done tonight. But all I can tell you is I like living here and I like having you guys out there. And I don't have to, and if anybody worries about me in the store and my revenues there, I didn't have to start a store. I'm retired. I did it so I stay young, stay busy. And so don't worry about that. We'll be fine. But anyway, anybody else have anything else to say? Maybe we can start this.
Well, I can add one more
Go
real
ahead,
quick
Tim.
thing right here. I just want to throw out for a lot of the lake residents. I've had some other people contact me and ask, well, what do you plan to spend all these extra revenues on anyway? And I'm Tim Wines. I'm the lake representative. I don't know if you all were aware of that. One of the things that I would like to see, as Dolly pointed out, fishing at the lake. We did a fish survey. I would like to stock some more fish into the lake. We need to get the weeds under control, which is why we've already stocked it with a lot of the grass carp. With the zebra mussels clear the water, sunlight reaches farther, allows the weeds to grow more. That's why you're having more weeds in the water now. I haven't even mentioned this one here yet, but we have the rearing ponds around the lake that I would like to see what it's going to take to get those functional again. I know they're very silted in, as the lake is. That's another, hopefully not a pipe dream. I'd like to see some dredging in the lake. And I want to have an adequate shower house over by the campsites. I think I think having an attractive, desirable campsite is very important to me anyway. I know a lot of you that live on the other side of the lake. I've been told by many of you, you don't care at all about the campsite. So, but that's what our lake is also for. So, and we need to get water to the campsites, and there's some electrical work that still needs to be done out there. We did do a lot of it thanks to Mr. Rush here and his contacts at Westar. They did a very fine job, but we're not quite done yet. But those are just some of the ideas that we're kicking around. And then now this road that we're on the hook for, as he said, that's where the money is going to be trying to spread out. I mean, we have this much money and this many projects, so you do the math. But that's what I'm thinking. And again, I'm open to anybody's suggestions or comments, complaints. I'll listen. Yes, sir.
This lady also, she's kind of.
Go ahead, Judy.
Judy Morton, 5 Windermere Way. The last meeting that I attended was 2 meetings ago, and we talked some about the caretaker's house out there, and that was still renting for $300 a month. And I want to know if that has been if anything has been done about that.
We haven't had a discussion on raising the rent on it yet because we held that over till now. It was also brought up the fact that the person that rents that place works for the fire and doesn't work. He's a volunteer fireman and he is the chief. And so we kind of might rent it to him at that price because of that. But yeah, I'm sure that
We have
we'll
other
discuss
firemen
it.
who live around the lake too.
What?
We have other firemen who live around the lake.
Yeah, but he responds and he also is the chief, so he is deserving, but we'll probably discuss it.
Now, for the record, rent last raised there 2015, so 5 years.
So he's due to.
It wasn't raised, it was decreased by $200 or.
I don't
It's
remember.
not, don't look at me.
We decreased it.
It was
considerably.
$500 and we decreased it to $300. It wasn't raised in 15, it was decreased by almost half.
I don't remember it being 500.
But
Okay.
Do you, Lisa?
Why was it decreased?
It was it 500? Okay.
Why was it decreased?
Why was it decreased?
It was, the structure was, in itself was deemed to be less than sufficient. I think there was going to be,
And his repair.
yeah, it's
but
not
we
exactly
put
a
in
prime.
a water heater and a new roof
Yeah.
since then.
Yeah, it was not a prime looking spot.
I'm not throwing a house out there for $300.
All right.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
One of the things, if I don't see a lot of volunteers, if the city would come up with a list of lake-related tasks, there's a lot of retired people at the lake who have a lot of time on their hands looking for stuff to do, and they have a lot of skills. So if a list of tasks or jobs or
You mean like,
objectives could be drafted, and then volunteers called for it, now maybe nobody would volunteer. But I think there would be some.
there have been volunteers, I remember back in the day when there was a lot of cleaning up of brush and stuff like that. I would love to be able to see the spillway from the county or the township road.
That would,
Can't see it anymore.
There was a lady that picked up 15 bags of trash. What was her name? She emailed us, didn't she?
Oh, yes.
So there are some people.
a list of jobs could be come up with, and then
Okay.
post for volunteers, that might be a start. And again, maybe nobody would volunteer, but I think there would be.
Is there a liability issue with that?
I would think so.
I think most of the tasks that you would volunteer for are tasks that we pay our bait shop people to do.
Well, we're talking
Well,
about all
fair
around the
enough.
lake though.
Yeah.
I bet.
Brush.
Maybe
Whatever.
suggest community service hours for the high school.
I know we've talked about that before.
Yeah, I used to talk about that when we had a policeman here and he would go around with the kids in yellow jackets and,
Do
Yeah.
work.
community cleanups, but they focus on one location at a time when they do that.
Yes, they do.
I don't know that they've ever done the lake.
FFA or who does it?
FFA does it. Yeah, they do us one year and then they do Dover, Howard Hill.
Numbers next
They
year.
might
Yeah, they
consider
rotate
that.
that.
They would do
I don't know
the,
that
why
they
not?
Put the lake on the rotation.
Yeah, I bet they would because that's part of our community.
Wow, when they come back.
Thank you.
that's great.
If I write it down, I actually remember it. Do we want to,
Stuff.
discuss these fees and stuff, or do we want to have a work session and do it? And then present it? How do you want to do that tonight, or do we want to do a work session?
The only thing is, this is the second time we've talked about this, and I hate to.
I wouldn't mind.
Take up, well, I know, I hate to take up, a third night for
Well,
I
then,
agree.
these guys.
and that's fine.
I think we can
You've
do
made
this.
your proposals and so, solidify them and let's vote, if you'd like to. Do you want to do what Justin has suggested, which is 20%, or do you want to do 20% on the docks and 10% on the structures?
I'm okay with
Yeah.
his percentage increases.
Varies, but yeah.
What concerns me still is the prorating. If we could, maybe do away with that, I
Probating
don't-
for what?
I think it does us any good. Do you?
What's the prorating?
What's prorating?
Oh, like right there, the
Different price
discounts
for
on
different
annual
amount of
voting.
time to use it, like
I think it doesn't.
January is different than May. May is different
Oh, we
than
don't-
August.
We don't do that anymore. We
No,
do.
we did away with that.
We do,
Okay.
it's like totally after Labor Day. It's after all the big,
Weekends.
The big
Can we do away
weekends have
with it
passed, but-
completely all the
yeah.
way? If it's just till Labor
If
Day.
somebody
You can-
comes out and wants to put a vote on after Labor Day, but they
September
haven't used their
15th,
link
I
think it
before
is.
then, I do not see a problem with giving them a discount. Because they're not gonna use it but just a couple times. And
Yeah.
if somebody's
I thought-
waiting until after Labor Day to put a vote on
I
it,
thought it was like 75% or half. I mean, it dropped. It
Yeah.
didn't drop like, super substantially, but I mean, all the peak season had already passed by that point. And so, I'm not sure if anybody even takes advantage of that. I mean,
Yeah.
do we have any way
Some
of,
do.
there are?
It drops off considerably.
Yeah.
And you can see from your report, I mean,
Which
like
makes sense.
September and October, yeah, it
It-
drops off a lot.
It just, I mean, yeah, maybe somebody would pay full price then, but just to give somebody the avenue to enjoy the
Yeah.
lake for a few months at
Mhm.
a discount, so. But that was kind of the mentality behind that, but yeah, we did do that January, February.
Okay.
So then people, could probably get smart and delay until March or April and purchase at a discount, and
Okay,
can't
so
remember if
then,
that was done for
so
very
are you
long or
going
not.
are we going to discuss, any increase in the fishing permits and how much they cost, or do you want, Tim, do you want to have Tim bring us a proposal on that?
as I said last meeting, I'm okay with almost everything on here except for the camping permits, which, until we have the campsite
With a nice shower.
as good as the other campsites at other lakes that you pay the same fee for. I
I
don't,
agree with
'Cause I think
that.
this talk was 22, and that was kind of in line with maybe
Which is
a premium
yeah.
style campsite,
yeah,
trees and everything. Yeah,
with a nice restroom that little kids aren't afraid to run inside of.
yeah.
We
We
just
don't
paid
have that.
23 a night for the same thing in the Ozarks, and it was a brand new bathroom. So with
Yeah.
handicap stalls, the whole. So I think that is a little steep, but and then are we gonna address the caretaker's home tonight too? Or not?
Is that on
Yeah,
this?
sure.
It's on there too.
It's printed on here. It's
You have it
the
already
same
printed?
price for both current and proposed,
You have
but
these already printed?
I'll say the same
Yeah.
thing. Red line the crap out of this. I mean, this is not a hard
Mine's in the
and
top.
fast anything.
Can I spin that around?
Sure. Yeah, printed off 10 of those before I left work, and here I am with 0 of those 10,
I have one at home.
and the one I
I
had
think
from
mine's
a
in
month
the
ago.
box. Annie's gonna grab it.
You must have passed those out when I was gone that night.
Yeah, I did. I left one here for Stephanie, or a couple, I think, so. Yeah, I planned on having more tonight, so I apologize to everybody for
Just
not
you
having
can
that.
use my copy. I just need that.
Okay, sure, thank you. So maybe it was 0. How I proposed it, I just figured it was one thing. It wouldn't make that much of a difference, but to kind of keep in line with everything else, we wanted to go 2% a year. Look back to 2015, that's about 10%. It's $330. We want to go more than that because of the money spent and the roof and trying to recover some of that. Maybe that's, I don't have a problem. You have to give them as a renter before you increase the price, but
Oh, then it would be
Then-
effective January 1st. Since it's
well, yeah, we can just say the whole thing's January 1st, and yeah,
That's what I was assuming.
yeah.
I raised
Or
a
no.
rent down at Prairie Wind at $50. In the squawk.
Stop. Todd, do you have this?
That would be nice.
Mix it up.
I don't know if it's missing.
No, don't.
I do.
I thought you said tall.
Sorry, I'll talk louder.
What?
This is what I was looking for.
Yeah, just the yellow is the current and the proposed. And if you want to get into
Yeah, because
the
the way you guys were
the how I
talking,
got there is
felt
kind
like
of
you knew it,
the middle.
and I was,
Yeah, I was gonna say Dolly wasn't here because you were leading the meeting and then Tim missed it too, so we kind of need to
Yeah.
catch them up on what you actually.
Oh, sure.
I don't know what number to put in this box, but I'm in favor of eliminating all of these boxes and leaving these prices.
The only thing I would say about the electric is we did spend close to $10,000 on there. And I know part of that was because we were literally shocking people. And that's,
I lost a refrigerator.
that's a no-no.
oh yeah.
I still think it should be raised,
Yeah.
just like everything else, but not to the extreme, I guess.
And I mean, when we talked about that, the idea was to try to recoup that. And I mean, you can't recoup $10,000 a year with 11 campsites on the
Yeah.
It's just not possible.
Yeah, but I mean, the idea was to make an increase, at least try to go towards some of that.
Well,
But yeah,
I'm not digging my
Part of
heels
it
in
is-
too much if you want to raise it some, but
yeah,
I think we have a lot more improvement to make before we can
yeah,
expect
that's,
to pay what you do at a finished campsite.
yeah. Well, and so maybe, maybe it goes up or it doesn't even go up as much. That was,
About
yeah,
18 and 16, would that be more reasonable for that premium, just being 18, but then 16?
16, so that goes up $1 and that goes up. Premium electric goes to 18 and,
I mean, that's my suggestion,
no, that's
you
a,
don't have to,
that's a good suggestion.
Premium electric up to 18,
yeah.
Yeah, instead of 22.
all right,
And electric to 16 instead of 18.
especially with some of those RVs, they have their own.
And I had a question mark by the boat here. The 1 day and 5 day. I didn't even know if we were still doing that, but I didn't see it printed out, so.
Yeah,
I assume we were, but,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah, I think that we still saw those.
okay.
We don't want to change those three.
I mean, this one only went up 50 cents, this is up $1. That's what, yeah.
Yeah.
RV parking, no electric, which I don't think you're making a huge for anyway.
I thought 7 was a little steep for a tent, but we could go 7, but they,
I like the primitive, that's a cute word, primitive.
I think that's what they actually use in the, yeah,
It is
I like
legitimate.
leaving the primitive at 6. I don't like raising that.
yeah. Oh, you don't like raising that at all?
No.
Okay.
You wanna leave it at 6?
And that 50 cents was only projected to
Yeah. Yeah, because
give
if I win with
$117 throughout the year. So,
And then, do we want to talk about caretaker house?
Are we,
definitely.
we're making a decision, are we breaking this down and making a decision on something like camping? I mean, are you gonna do
I
that
think-
first?
I
think that's-
And get it done with and then move on to the next?
Oh, sorry.
Oh,
Yeah, I
yeah.
think we should change
I didn't have
So
anything
then-
alterage
else.
lines
Yeah.
as we go down.
yeah.
All right, so then
Because
you
the
did
camping is the
premium
only thing
18.
So far that,
Intent, leave it at 6.
the first 5 lines and the last line are the only ones that I'm interested in, so. yeah. The rest of them are, at your discretion, because I'm okay with what's proposed.
The RV parking non-electric was, we're going up $1, but then again, we must have had 16 instances last year. So I mean, really, we only would raise 16 additional dollars. Then we could go up $2 for RV non-electric, but yeah, of course, you're in an RV, so your value is diminished when you're not hooked up. Part of the point.
Right.
Yeah, I'm okay with the rest of those.
Yeah.
I like leaving the tent one alone, and the other 2 changes that Annie proposed here, I'm okay with.
Go to 6 or leave it.
Leave it at 6, yes.
18 and 16?
18, 16, and 6.
Yeah.
Which one?
The primitive tenant will
Leave it
stay
at
at
6,
6, yeah.
right? And
Electric
then
at
and the
16.
premium electric 18.
Yeah. And
Anything else change
then
there?
Electric at 16 instead of
15 or 16?
16.
Okay, thank you. I'm gonna have to get a hearing aid.
I don't know anything about voting. I can't give you any advice. That's not my forte.
And I always personally thought boats were a little expensive out there, but at the same time, it's, you know, if we're going up in other places, it's logical we go up there too.
And for, ever since I've been around here, I've been under the impression that the pricing was slightly high to try to discourage anybody and everybody from being able to put boats on there because
Yeah.
not that much surface space for that much watercraft.
Yeah. But it is made.
So then just that minor
It's
increases.
somewhat affordable for residents.
Yeah, that's also why we have
You
the,
put a big boat on the water for 75 or whatever today, so
I like that idea.
double that for.
Less for the residents and then more for the visitor.
yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. So leave that alone.
It's
Yes.
Lake Wabunsee or Eskridge.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was about to ask that stuff.
Yeah.
Only the Yama people that live at the lake.
Right.
Ah.
We're Maple Hill people. We live nowhere near Maple Hill.
We're good on the bottom one. What do you want to do about the caretaker's house?
I propose $50. Is that too much?
That's right where I was probably gonna be. Yeah.
So I'd go higher than
Well, yeah, well, we can increase it, you know, over the year, but we need to start somewhere.
that. It's hard to rent anything $300 a month, let alone at right up
Right on the
lakeside.
lake with
Yeah.
nothing between you and the
Yes.
water.
I don't think 400.
No, I think 400. Oh, I moved to 100. Well, I moved more than that by money.
Like what? Back to the original.
Back to the original. Yeah,
That's a big jump.
and you can move out.
It was a big jump.
Yeah, you can move out. If you don't like it, you can
It
move
was a
out.
big negative jump
I mean,
5 years ago.
I don't know. I think 400 is a little steep at once. That's
I do too.
33%.
Should we split the difference?
375. I mean, I paid $350 for an apartment 10 years ago. I'm just
How much
throwing
is
that out
how much
there.
is a 1-bedroom apartment at the
But
apartment now?
we pay all the utilities.
how much?
It's also lakefront property, so
$450.
still give me a
Four hundred
price.
and $50, 500 if you have a washer dryer in there, 600 for the 2-bedroom.
And that's not by a lake.
That's an apartment.
It's an apartment, not by a lake.
It's by a very nice yard. If you want to raise it, that's fine, but let's do it over increments and not just dump on him all at once. Because, you know,
Well, we've
Well,
gone,
somebody suggested
we've gone
something, 'cause I'm
5
gonna go
years
with the
without
majority.
doing anything at all. I think if we make a $50 raise, then that's $50 more than what we have been getting for the last 5 years.
you could do that this year and then give him a heads
Revisit
up.
it in a year.
Yeah.
That's
Be
right.
$600 a year.
It could be for sale next year, who knows?
We're not selling anything on that side of the lake.
Except the barracks.
No,
Wait, we already
that's
did.
not property.
I'd sure like to buy one for $1,000.
Me too.
No, they cut me out when I
And then
had
we're
a
good with the
chance.
wild olive stay in the same, or we want to change that too?
We can't.
Oh,
We
yeah,
can't
we
tell
can.
them.
We just did
Oh,
it's a
that.
contract,
You
sorry.
can too.
Okay. I'm
It was a 20-year contract.
right.
Yeah, we can negotiate anything at any
Yeah.
time, but we built escalators in there. I'm happy with where that stands.
So that's already gonna be increased.
My mortgage doesn't work like that. It's a 15-year contract.
So anything else on there anybody else has an issue with, or we good?
I think I'm fine.
Did we make $50 on that? All right, that's what I thought.
Are you okay $50? Cause I'd like to see 100.
I mean, you guys haven't voted
You haven't voted on it
anything
yet.
yet. You
I'd like
guys
to,
haven't
I'd
voted
like
on
to see 100
anything.
on Barris.
On the barracks, we can't raise more than 5% in
there's
a
a
given
limit.
year.
Is that right?
Yeah, you just gotta, that was the one thing that's
Look at the
limited.
contract.
And what's 5%? What's more than raise?
Now, raised it 4.8% just because it was an even dollar amount. I mean,
So that's what the 550 would be then, is 5%.
well, barracks we're
On the barracks.
proposing to go from 420 to 440. They were raised one time since
Oh, yeah.
1999.
There was a reason why it was done that way. They were, the barracks were sold at a reasonable price because there was a lot of disrepair to them.
Yeah.
Well,
They
they
were given
technically
away.
did, all the
Okay.
barracks owners did the city a favor by taking those projects on.
Well, and so, no, they weren't doing a favor because that, they had a list of people that wanted on them. And the people wanted them and they knew they were going to have a gaining of it, so that was
What's
our,
maximum they would raise that barracks?
What it's at, pretty much.
What?
What it's at.
Maximum would be, what, $4 more?
Well, you said we couldn't raise it by law,
No,
$1
more.
5%.
So it's
5%.
$1 more,
$4.8.
441, I think.
I'm fine with it as it is right now.
yeah.
I was trying to shoot for even dollar amounts. That's also part why I'm not, why I personally don't like to say, increase, $2 a year, because at that point, what the heck do I write the check for this year,
Yeah.
So I realize that causes a stair stepping over time. Now, if we shorten the window, I think it's,
Do we have any
they're saying 8
idea?
years is too much to go without.
They were talking an awful lot about, the roads there. How much would it cost to put chip and seal around there to begin with?
The lake?
No, around the barracks.
No. I'm not sure if you have to start out with a good pay.
I know, I
Yeah,
think you do.
Yeah, so
Okay, I'll
I
ask
don't know if
Mike.
you can
Mike
chip
could have
seal
a better
anything with something
idea.
that starts out paved.
But before we go paving gravel roads up there, we have some in our own town that need paved. that are-
All right, focus, refocus.
No, refocus.
It is two
Just
separate.
an idea.
You happy with this?
It would make them,
Yes.
yeah,
No, I
can't do anything nice.
I agree with you, but lake funds for the lake.
Okay, so then on the camping, we're doing 18 on premium electric, we're doing 16, primitive, we're doing 6. Then we go down to the the barracks is okay. We went to the caretaker house, and we might have to vote on that because you guys were talking 50 and Brad would like to propose 100. Huh?
We have to vote on.
Each individual one?
Yeah, you can
Well,
vote.
no, you can
No,
vote
you
it as a
just
package.
You can vote on
as a
blanket. You
package,
can-
But I'm saying like.
Whoever makes the motion can pull that one item out if it's gonna be controversial and.
All right. Well, then, if we're done discussing, how about a motion?
Um,
to approve the proposal.
you just stole my move.
You seconded.
Second it. All right, we have
As
the
is.
With the changes, it's
With
Dolly.
these changes, yeah.
with these changes, 1, 2, 3,
So it changes to the
Is
caretaker
this
house or
without
what?
the caretaker house? or-
$50.
$50.
At
Okay,
$50, yeah.
and Brett said without the caretaker house, but with
No, I think we were already doing it without the caretaker house, weren't we?
Oh,
Well, no, we're not, we haven't
Fully-
pulled
Then
it out.
yes, without the caretaker house.
Okay, so your motion is amended to take as proposed without the caretaker's house.
Okay,
Your second, you'll allow that amendment?
Yeah, I'll second.
okay.
Now we're back on track. No
Thank you.
caretaker on that.
All right, now let's have a discussion. Our motion, whichever one you want, on the caretaker.
No, we need to
house.
vote.
Well,
Favor.
Well,
That's how we do it.
Oh,
All in
I
favor.
keep forgetting
Yeah.
that part. All in favor
Of what?
Of this.
of those?
Without the
Voting
Three
on
without.
everything
Oh,
except
yeah.
caretaker.
Everything except caretaker.
In favor. It's a
Okay,
5-0.
so is that.
We've totally done this before.
Now,
Back brown.
Yeah.
caretaker.
Okay,
Yeah.
do we need to vote then on the,
Yeah, somebody needs to make a motion on caretaker.
Brad, what's your motion?
I'd like to see $100 increase. My motion.
We have $100 on the caretaker house. Do I have the
You're
second?
here, 150.
I'll second.
Sorry.
No, I was not gonna do the auctioneer thing.
Okay. So we got a second.
All in favor? 2. And opposed? 3. Do we have
I
And
moved to
another
raise it
proposal.
50.
A second.
We have, proposal of 350. All in favor? 1, 2, 3. All opposed? Same two. The motion is passed at 350 for the caretaker house this year. Democracy. Like it.
Yes,
Okay,
it's
so all of
Republican.
this is in effect, January 1,
January.
so including caretakers.
Yeah, that was-
Okay.
yeah, and that gives them the 30 days.
Okay, so
I would have sent them a
glad you
notice.
guys did this now, because I'm getting ready to send out.
There you go.
Send a notice to the caretaker.
Will
That
do.
is required to mow
Yes,
10,000
oh,
hours.
thank you, can I?
I'm
Yes,
sorry.
you can.
Required to mow his own grass.
I'll probably want a copy.
Like,
Yes,
If
I
we
will.
need to discuss
I'll
that,
make a
then
copy.
my answer would absolutely be yes. I don't know why anybody else
I'm
would.
just so excited we got that done.
Blew my mind when I heard that. Why? Because it being.
All right, now we've, do we have any further discussions about late fees for now? We've done it all, haven't we? Good. All right.
Not yet.
Bump that to the end.
Slow your roll there, cowboy.
Put that one on the bottom.
That's why I was gonna drag it out.
Like dot numbers.
That's where I'm at now. Lake dock numbers?
So I know we kind of talked about this, and then Tim and I were emailing last week about how to put this in the letter. So this is just an example of the letters that go out every year. It's in your guys' packet. And I just put basically a bolded notice in there. Please make sure all docks are numbered with the correct number as listed above, and in parentheses, put the number, and then clearly visible from both lake and land side. I didn't know if you guys wanted to add that, any suggestions,
And
what you would like different.
I was thinking that when we originally discussed this, we pointed out to have the numbers. I mean, I don't know if this is something that needs to be pointed out, but I want to make sure that they're visible.
Yes.
And I was thinking of a contrasting color behind them, like, black on white or something like that, or those ones that you get for a mailbox that have the black on the gold, shiny silver, whatever, something like that. I just wanted to try to avoid people buying pretty little wooden numbers and putting it on the wood dock, and the first year it's very visible, but after a year or two of time.
Tim, I completely agree. It needs to be visible.
That's the only thing that I want to express, is just to make sure that they're easily seen. So I don't know if, I don't want to sound like I don't
It's
know.
reasonable. It's a reasonable thing.
So I don't know, like,
Yes, sir.
Tim, on that, I think part of the problem is that not everybody has the same structure and the same building material to adhere something to, or a sign that's consistent.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing is, for some that just have docks only with no structures above, wave and water action take effect on those, and they wear off. I mean, you put them on, they're gone. So just keep that in mind too.
And I don't think we were wanting anything consistent, to still give people kind of the leeway on, the aesthetic wise style, yeah.
We're not talking about a standard idea that's visible from above.
You addressed this 2 or 3 years ago. I didn't mind, but I tried to get them up so they're
Yeah.
off the water.
Oh, sure.
See, when we first discussed this idea, we were, thinking, okay, everybody's going to put it in the bottom right-hand corner. And then we started realizing that you just can't do that,
Right.
or whatever the case may be. So,
Logistically, there's some situations.
the bottom line is, we just want it to be visible from each side, because as I said earlier, we are going to have a public officer out there, and that person needs to be able to identify each property, whether the person is walking across the shoreline and looking at the docks, or on a boat, whatever the case may be, just as long as it's simple. I mean, I don't want to overthink this rule, but I just would like everybody to identify their dock.
Okay. I think that letter will take care of that. And if they have any questions, they'll call Stephanie or you, Jim.
so is everyone good with just saying
Yeah.
clearly visible.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I'll add that in the dock letters this year.
Thank you, Stephanie.
Mhm.
And before we move away from the lake, the public accesses, did we have those signs? We have those signs, right? Did you say you had some?
Brett, I have a question.
thought we
What's the
decided
purpose of the public access signs?
So that people know where their access is to get down to our shoreline to be able to fish or.
But not necessarily I just worry about voyeurism. People going down there and then walking along the edge and looking at other people living up in the big.
I know where I'm gonna spend my Christmas.
They're on the shoreline, Dolly, so as you're driving by on a boat, each one of them could look at each other from the boat to the house.
The shoreline is public property anyway.
I do realize that.
So,
It just occurred to me one night when I had somebody walking by my place and I have all those windows in my home and I thought, I gotta get shades.
Well, and I think that we had talked about the last time we had talked about it. We were going to
Just
start
putting
off
lines.
with 5 spots.
I mean, that's something I worry about at my house.
Quite a few.
yeah.
That we were actually gonna delineate, is that what you're saying, or mark?
Let
I
me
thought there
clarify
was 20
that
something.
for my husband.
I mean, I was gonna say, I know there's more
But I thought that we were
areas, but.
sign wise, whatever, we're going to tackle 5
I think I'm
spots, but we haven't done anything.
You can see your house.
level.
Anyway, I was
I
just
know
throwing
he
that out
had
there.
that.
and-
I know he had that map, but I didn't remember him
You
getting
just, you
signs.
just mapped it out. I don't remember anything.
I thought he was getting the signs the same time he was getting the dead end sign
Maybe.
that Angel was talking about, because that was about the time that we were talking about it.
How about if we check
I
with him?
can't.
Yeah, let's-
I'm sorry.
Write a little note and ask Mike tomorrow.
But
And
we
then-
need
and
them
then-
if he didn't get them.
and then
we
email
need
him.
public access.
Let's-
I thought we
I'm
left
sorry?
it as like the shores public,
Sometimes clear up to the back door.
like how you were gonna.
Depends.
put it in, and then, like,
And then
what the
shoreline
sign.
rules, so.
Okay.
I don't know why I didn't think of this before, but if we say this is where the public access begins, we can put a sign here and then put one down at the water's edge. Because that was one of the concerns is people might see this sign and then if they think, oh, I need to walk this way, then they're walking on somebody else's backyard. And that's what we want to try to avoid. We're certainly not gonna put some
I think they were
sort
just
of
gonna mark 5.
barrier.
But I'm not sure anything's happened at this
Well,
point.
then if we put a sign on each end,
Go around that.
maybe people would think, okay, well, here's where it begins and I see.
Do
a
you
sign right
understand what
there.
we're talking about?
Yeah, people are wondering, and I'm wondering, how many public access points do we currently have
How
right
many
now?
do we have, Brett?
We have none marked.
But how many?
Yeah,
But
are
you
there?
thought that we had 13, but I was thinking there was 20 some on that.
Well, we just had it mapped out, though, didn't we?
Yeah, Mike had that at a meeting.
Yeah.
I can find him if you want.
You can kind of see it too. I mean, mapping. GIS mapping will show it. Pretty much anywhere that's a
Shows a
public.
gap between the lots.
Yeah, for the most part, it may be a road too.
A lot of the roads are just grass
Yeah.
Yeah,
paths.
they're
Or is
like
it-
fire.
Or is it
There were
just
some
any?
people
it's a
that
fire
expressed-
event?
Well, I mean, it could be,
There were
there's
people
some
that
that were
expressed an
designated as
interest
public
about
ways
where
and
the
some
public
not.
accesses were so they could get down to fishing. And so they had approached Brett about that and then he brought it to the council and so it was discussed on camera
Sure,
about,
we were just
Well,
wondering
and it
how many
occurred to
there
me
were
that-
now.
yeah, if you didn't
There's
see it,
none
you
marked
wouldn't know. And so
Yeah,
he's,
but marking doesn't make it so. It's
Yeah,
there.
but marking doesn't make the,
Right, it's there, but, if my husband decides to go fishing when the new fish gets stocked and he wants to go, we could be traipsing down between somebody's house and then they're gonna be angry.
That's
And
why we
he-
want
Now that he's
marking.
retired, he may like to go fishing more, so where would he go after he bought his license and go? I mean, he can ask the boathouse, I suppose, and they could
you
say.
can go to the whole north side too
You know, yeah, but,
and the bridges.
you know, so,
And
but,
then he could make a lot of friends out there and go fishing. on there.
yeah, he can talk about anybody but that.
And you met Terry.
I, you know, to everybody.
He does talk to everybody.
I think our major concern would be the fact that if you get too many people out there, you're gonna have people leaving trash behind, and then we do maintain it, even though it's your property, we do spend a lot of time maintaining it.
Yes.
We
And
do know that.
wouldn't be too excited about having a lot of people out there throwing trash and things like that around, so. No, but.
That's right, not everybody's like that.
That's right.
Anyway, so I guess find the answer if we have some of the signs and get some, and then we can talk about putting some up.
Well, I know that was one of the concerns that was brought up, is if we put the sign at the entrance of path, if you will, then how do we keep the people on the path when it's not identified? And that's why I just came up with the idea of putting a sign, at the entrance of the path and then at the water's edge, and hopefully people will stay on the straight.
Are you interested, maybe a brochure that has those instructions on it?
Yeah, I kind of wondered about the same thing, like, an easement exists between 361 and 362, or, whatever the numbers
To
are.
try
and
and
then
keep
just
people
kind of
where
have a
they're
list
supposed to be, yeah.
of-
Maybe something
of
at the
those,
bait house that
I don't know.
identifies that.
Yeah, I would think a map is hard, because even that's a good sized map, and to try to mark out every one would be kind of difficult, and then to have somebody retain that
People don't like to
information when
read.
they were actually,
People don't
out
like to
there.
read.
well, yeah, that's
They
true.
got to retain
You
it
gotta
in
shove
their
it out
pocket.
in like 16 times.
Yeah, but to try to sit
I
there
wouldn't
with a
trust them to look
magnifying
at a
glass.
pamphlet and then stay out of my yard at the same time.
1, 2, 3, 4 houses past.
I think I suggested like
Try
a
to
colored
remember that when
marker,
you get
like
there.
you have a post that even is down the trail. Obviously not something you could mow over. We wouldn't want
That's
to
the other thing, is you don't want to litter up the
So I
path.
guess it depends on what you want to do.
I might think thoroughly about opening up the access points to the general public, because there's a lot of downsides, restroom facilities, parking. Most of those roads, those interior roads are all single lane. So if they're gonna park on private property.
Oh.
So.
Well, there has to be some road easements or whatever.
Well, that may be the issue is that if the access is designated as right of way public access, you can't restrict them from doing that. It's just right now they don't know.
It's already open.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you don't necessarily want them parking there.
Yeah, I just wouldn't encourage that. I can see a
Well,
lot of
it is a
downside.
good point too. If we're not willing to provide the cleanup in those areas that we've publicly advertised, then should we really be advertising them?
We're not publicly advertising, we're just.
I
adequately
know. But you kind of are. I mean, yeah, that's
Yeah,
really.
That is it.
Yeah, that's true.
So,
I mean, are we gonna go pick up trash if they go
So do
fish
you want me to
there?
tell the people, no, you can't go down to
No,
the
no, no,
access
I'm not
point?
saying that. I'm saying,
Why can't they just walk on the north side and not worry about it?
do we do cleanup in the areas that we are gonna have, I guess, advertised? If we're gonna have a heavier foot population, it is a good point. Like, they are gonna inevitably leave something
I'm sure that
behind.
we could put a trash can at the point, like, that's
Okay.
not a big.
It's just something to think about. It's not,
And it might not get used a
Boy,
lot
boy.
anyway, because down there by the barracks, that's all public area there, and I don't think people use that very much. That whole point there's a dock that we built down there, and I don't think a lot of public goes there to use that, so it might not be. Everybody might choose to continue walking on the roads like we all do. I don't, I drive.
you
Yes,
might
sir.
be encouraging a liability issue too, because I know my property and my neighbor, yes, there's an easement between them, but once you get to the edge of my yard, you go down to the lake, there's no way to do it.
Yeah, there probably isn't access all the way around the lake, is there? If we get on the edge of the lake, we go
Correct.
here, and then there's
Yeah,
gonna
we're
be something
talking
that
rock
stops.
and weeds, and if you're gonna make it public, and I'm gonna quit maintaining it, because,
Sure.
right now I weed it and I cut down brush and stuff like that. If you're gonna give people the right to go down through there, not my responsibility.
Yeah.
So. I understand the public access thing, but I think there needs to be some common sense to go along with it, places that may be least intrusive. If you're going to pick a couple to do that for, that allow something on the south side, maybe.
I will have
That's
to
kind
tell
of what
you,
we were talking about, why we're starting off with just 5. We were gonna go with exactly what you said.
We're sure not gonna try to send people down, some of those rocky drop off edges and, so. But this isn't something that needs to be done immediately either. I mean, this.
and we could encourage, I know that Dave last year, I think it was Dave, or somebody took a lawnmower and did along the North Shore. And people started walking there and thanking us for doing that. And I didn't even know for sure if we did it. It might have been one of our residents out there made a path along the edge of the North Shore, and people were going, "Oh, that's so nice." And we ought to build a little bridge over this one gully. And I thought about Tim immediately because he's got all those skills. Yeah. No, I didn't. I didn't say it. But I did say it would be nice to have a little bridge across.
Skills.
That's why I'm like that.
Yeah.
But we'll
Can
have,
I ask a question?
Yes, sir.
Because I saw in the minutes that you were talking access, and you were kind enough to send me the map, but I thought there were very few access points. Are you telling me legally there's more than that around the lake?
Yes.
Or the map is complete?
The map is not complete. The map that we've,
Not complete.
the one that Mike did, I think, if that's what we're talking about, was just a couple of the larger ones. Like you said, I think we're thinking that, but there's different sizes, obviously, and
I
different
think he
locations.
pinpointed the ones that had the most access to them, and was just the safest way to get down. That's what we're
Some
gonna
of
start
them are
with.
pretty narrow, and
There's a lot of them that you could never use the access points. Well, you could if you were a hiker, but
We wouldn't encourage like
Right.
fishermen to go through that.
Yeah, I just didn't know whether they were all
Well,
or
that's-
just.
yeah, the idea being is that there's, pretty much a lot of the areas around the lake, shoreline is all cities.
Yes.
And there's some ways that connect up to the road.
Yes.
So those are public ways generally too. And so there's there could be a road there that's technically not the city's it's not the city's property, it's a public road that is maintained by the LWID, but at the same time, you're connecting up to another location that could get access down there. So it's there's not a complete, I don't know if anybody's done a complete review or inventory of every way that you could get to the shoreline from the road.
No, but through the zoning or plating, it should show.
Yeah, you should get an
where
idea.
all of
Yeah.
them are.
Because pretty much the way they did it was they have the larger.
it should.
Yeah, the
This property line.
But doesn't.
And it should, so it should
I mean,
show
the way
access.
it's all platted out there, I mean, like.
Well, that's what it is. I mean, basically when it was originally done, this big line you see around the
Yeah.
outside of it was a whole park,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And they just started platting these sections
Yes.
off. So when you do it, instead of doing it like you have a whole block and we're doing everything, they start just laying them on top of things so that you will always have gaps and areas that don't quite match up. And that's kind of, some of these are access points, some of them are, places where you couldn't. So I'm just saying it's a little weird. It's not we're used to kind of Kansas 4 square right angles, that kind of thing.
Yeah,
I
that's
spent
more like
15 years on
Philadelphia.
Overland Park zoning, and it's not unique to the lake.
You're just saying the whole state.
Anywhere you had developers.
Yeah.
Another interest to us in marking the things is Brett and I each have a house beside each other, but there happens to be a path between the two, just about wide enough for a boat trailer that neither one of us own that property. It's an awful handy spot to store that boat trailer. Firemen get a little grumpy when that boat trailer's in their way. So identifying those also have that purpose.
All right. Okay, moving on. All right. Bandstand.
We could bump me to the end if you guys want to. I'm fine.
Will you be more tired and less windy?
Don't have anything. No.
I'm gonna be real short and quick if I
All right,
can.
handstand.
It's up to you guys if I'm short and quick.
Go.
What?
Bandstand.
No, can I bump it to the end?
Oh, you want to bump it to the end?
Yeah, can I kick it out? That's what I'm saying. Let's go to.
All right, 211 East Second Street.
Resolution.
That one.
Yeah, this is just the final resolution.
Oh, we did this already.
He did the one that said he had a hearing, or whoever had a hearing. He didn't come to the hearing, so this is closing.
I have input on this property. I called the family and they lay no claim to it whatsoever. and there was no will. We're talking about the Lux house. Yes, I called the family and, told them about that, and they had already contacted, some friends of theirs here in town who told me about Chris. I called his son. And the only thing they wanted to do is they were gonna come down and see if there's any grandma stuff in that, and I encouraged them 2 weeks ago to come and do that. And so there will be no family interference.
Okay.
And I have a question on that. When we tear down these houses, is there any way we can claim the land rather than just let it sit there and be vacant?
Well, just different process. This, ultimately, you can suppose you could souse it out when it gets sold for taxes, perhaps.
Okay.
But that's one way. The other way is that you do the condemnation, actually condemn it for some kind of, but then you end up paying them out the value of it is to whomever. It's kind of a process that way, so.
So in other words, a way to get perhaps a way to get some ownership of it so that we could then turn around and sell it.
Yeah.
Would be to wait for the tax sales to come up.
Yeah, I would say, go ahead.
Well,
Okay.
I'm just gonna say, why would we want the property in this case?
Well, we can discuss that some other time. I just was, think it was rolling around in my head one
Yeah.
day. There's some property that's more attractive than others, and I had called the assessor's office to ask him about what a lot goes for here as far as taxes go for a friend of mine, and he said $2,000 a lot. So that's something.
Is that what they're appraised for? Is that what?
Yes, that's
go
what they're,
for?
that's what they're
going for.
appraised
We
for.
don't sell them for
that.
That's not what they're
Yeah.
going for.
That's
No,
not what they're doing.
That's
like
just
six or
what
seven
they're
That's what
bucks.
they're
appraised
appraised for. That's what
So,
I'm
I mean,
saying.
one went
Year
for
or something.
$11,
Yeah.
600.
Yeah, and then when you go,
500.
they're appraised for 2,000, and then when it goes to tax sale, yeah, you can get it for $50 or something like that.
Well, you guys could just,
And then we
put
could
it-
turn around
you
and
can
sell
tear it down, put your lien on it, and then basically redeem it at the time the tax sale comes up too, for some amount.
You get a percentage of whatever that tax sale is after the
Well, but
taxes
you,
are taken.
no, you would basically reach an agreement with the county to redeem it for some price,
Okay,
and then they would transfer title.
okay. Thank you.
You have the bare lot.
Is that cheaper, or, I mean, if we
Yeah,
wanted to do that,
cheaper.
could we just send our agent up there with cash in hand at the courthouse or whatever at 10 a.m. and purchase it for $75?
Mhm.
Once again, not like you want to.
Yeah.
But that would probably be a cheaper route of.
Then filing the condemnation, having the hearing, going down there, appointing appraisers, paying the appraisers. all that.
Yeah.
I think it's kind of expensive.
I was just curious to know if you were interested in that, because we have lots that sit around here bye-bye, that sell at tax sales, and yet we could probably sell them, especially if they're nice lots, like the one up there across from Big Miller's place. That's a nice lot,
Yeah.
which, by the way,
But we
he think,
have it, like, if it does sell, not at a tax sale, which that one probably won't, but, I mean, we have our value on it with the county, so if it does sell for any amount, the city would get a portion of that. I mean, that's another thing, just throwing that out there.
Maybe I'll buy it. Start clearing my block out.
That's that's the thing, is you would hope the adjoining property owners would.
There's a
One,
spirit.
it's done.
There's a spirit, Annie.
It's a lot over in escrow, that's a lot.
Get all of them, you can build a hotel. Get more.
No, my brothers are needed. No. Buy the hotel.
Think of Monopoly.
Yeah. Monopoly of grass, that's what it would be. Sorry. Not there.
there's not very much vision in that statement. All right,
Do we need to do something?
Yeah, this is, the resolution is just to close
yes,
the
please.
the thing and get her moving on.
And,
And at any time after this, you guys can, if you get. if
I'm gonna
you-
approve the resolution.
I second.
Is this an all in favor or no?
It's all in favor, it's resolution.
It's resolution.
Resolution 1125.
Not-
Anyway, all in favor? That's unanimous.
we want to do this after January 1st at all, so it's on the next budget year, or do we want to try to attempt it?
We were gonna
This
make a
budget
list
year.
of buildings as we go, and then as we work on what we wanna spend our budget on, we'll decide what properties to demolish. I would like to tell the council that 2 properties that were on our thinking list of demolishing, one property has been bought. And, it was Sandy Johnson's 2 buildings up there. The gentleman sold them for $4,000 for the 2 buildings. And so there's somebody that bought them for $4,000. They're going to fix the small house because they went in there and they said the back wall needs to be fixed and a new roof, of course. And then they're going to live in that house, and then they're going to rent or flip the 2-story house where the Johnsons used to live.
You're talking up the street from this?
Yes, sir. So that's nice. And if they don't do anything on it, then we can start encouraging them with our
Sandy
ordinances.
Johnson's
Okay?
That's not his
So-
house.
No,
Hopefully.
It worked,
they lived in his
Chris was awful upset.
down
Oh,
there.
that just bought?
Just bought them, correct, yes.
And
They also
Chris
have.
Gilbert.
That was a little
Oh,
late.
yes.
They did a lot of work to that place, but.
What tennis?
all right.
It's easy.
Sales tax.
I don't know. I know.
That's actually the commercial street.
Commercial
Oh, I'm sorry.
ordinance.
No, it's,
I can't.
Well, that's the, I think it's probably more for another, you guys need to review it because this is my first shot at this.
Oh, I thought it was pretty good, Todd.
Hey, what can I say? Really, it's pretty straightforward, general prohibition, the applicable zoning, that's basically all the subdivisions of districts that the county currently has for commercial, so, and industrial. You may not have all these zones in the city, so it's probably overkill, but I need to cover it. And then it kind of just, the variances means that you really can't, they can't through the county get a special use permit to allow them to do that without you guys, it's kind of an escape hatch. And then finally, the only one that, something that was kind of me riffing a little bit was the last one, which is if you've got, I kind of got the idea that some places like downtown areas have commercial buildings with a second story that's rented out. I don't know if people want to do that, if that was a
I
problem.
wouldn't want to not encourage that.
Yeah, and that's kind
For
of,
somebody to buy it and fix up the building and put apartments above if there was there, I wouldn't want to discourage that.
well, the kind of the way I plumbed it out in this, or tried to, is that as long as you have an active business in there that's on the ground floor, that you could do it in the second floor. But if you stop the use down here, I just don't want an apartment with nothing actively below it.
Unlike Brett, though, the advantage, I understand what you're saying, the advantage of having an apartment up above is have somebody on Main Street to watch. And also, they might find it enjoyable to see the nightlife on Main Street. I know they're doing it in Topeka.
I don't. What it says. You
Yeah.
can
Yes,
have-
and so I like, that's why I
I
told
think
him
that's
I
what Brett
liked
said,
it.
is he likes that too.
Yeah, I know I was agreeing with
Okay.
him.
I'm,
tried to
I'm not
do
used to
We're
that.
Agreeing with him. I think it's a great idea.
Well,
I would love it.
I had a great idea for one.
I wish we
There you
could
go.
have.
Attaboy, Todd.
What's that?
I don't think does anybody feel like they need to review this anymore?
No,
think
it's
it's good.
good. I thought it was good.
Um,
I'll move to approve
Ordinance 577.
577.
I'll second.
all in favor?
I'm
Thank you
going
for
to
your fine
abstain
work.
just because I haven't read it yet.
Tim's
It's gonna go through and there that
We can wait for you.
I'm not gonna work for something I haven't read.
Okay. Did that, hand out a copy of this?
I didn't, because you said.
Yep. Just one pager, real easy.
Oh, great. You're making me read again.
This
She said.
is very basic.
So I have on the agenda.
It's true.
This would be 577. This would be 578.
No, this is, they're passing it. Just one page.
What's the ordinance number?
578.
Now it's 578.
I was gonna say, what happened? This one said 577.
Yeah, well,
I'll move
For
to
my
approve
sake.
ordinance number 578.
keeping them in order.
This is the 1%.
Yeah.
I'll second.
We had a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
And 4. 5.
Do we know yet, does this cover natural gas?
Yes. Well, people
Within
just
town,
within
yeah.
city limits.
What about the city limits of the other two cities?
Rats.
Nope. Just
Destination.
within.
Or when is our sales
Do
tax?
this?
It has to be in our area.
Makes sense. That's what I
Yeah.
figured.
Sign it
the outcome
now.
Would be.
Get it on the publication schedule. But you need to send that in as soon as you can, just that, the certification, and get that certification from the county.
Okay.
About the election, and send that to the
water
state.
Want me to sign a clean one because I scribbled that on.
Stephanie, what about water?
That's good.
Same
Same
thing,
thing, yeah.
within city limits.
Cool.
Yeah, because we're supposed to get this to them within 30 days.
Assume yourself.
Within city limits, not city-owned property?
What's that?
Not city-owned property too?
Just city limits.
Well, wherever there would be, no. No, now we're city owned property is
Anyone who was able to vote, basically,
jurisdictionally,
is, yeah.
city limits.
What about people that don't live in town that voted?
They'll sales tax, so when they come in and buy stuff, they'll be
But this is
spending
what
money
it
here,
is.
so.
I don't know what's happening.
Todd, when do I need to raise this?
Stealing the election.
When do I need to change my
Russians.
register?
Yes.
What is it?
Oh.
Okay, 8:35, that's Tim's breaking point.
It's too late for
Sorry,
conspiracy.
the, will go into effect on April 1, it should,
Right.
because the county will tell, or the state will tell the county, or somebody will tell you when that goes into effect.
So we don't, yeah, it goes into effect April 1 because they have to have a full quarter before, and then we will receive
just gonna
ours
tell-
in June.
Yeah.
Our first
You're on
installment.
It's just I'm gonna have to change my register, and that is mind blowing for me.
And I talked to April, and she suggested for this first year,
I was trying to
just
separate
putting it
this.
in the general fund and just keeping track
Yeah.
of it. Which will
Yeah, I
be
wondered if that needed
okay.
a line item or.
Yeah, she's like, well, you can amend, but
Oh,
you can-
okay, because it's already,
yeah,
that makes sense.
we wouldn't be able to
Let's
do anything with it this year if you guys wanted to, if we made it.
Budget, this is budget.
Yeah.
That's right. So who cares?
I missed what we were talking
So then it
about,
just
but-
counts as unexpected revenue in general.
They were talking when we could use the money, but if we make it a line item, then we wouldn't be able to do it this year because it's not in the budget, but if it's in the general fund,
This is what I was trying to look at.
So should we be passing an ordinance to just create a fund and just leave it empty in 2020 and then in budget 2020?
don't
Put
complicate
some
our
money in
lives. We're
No,
fine.
I don't think so. Well, you
I don't
can-
know.
I don't know.
You can check with the auditors, and if they want it, I don't have a problem, but I don't think that requires
How
it.
how she talked to me about it, I think it'll be fine. She said just
Oh, yeah, I mean,
Mark
it'd still be,
keep track of it.
in
It'll
theory,
be
you're building
easy to
that
keep
up,
track
but
of,
yeah.
right?
I'm just saying that after that, then you can,
And then
Yeah,
I'll just
because we need to,
transfer
to
whatever.
After that, you can
set
just
some
give it
money
its own
aside for
fund.
that matching
I don't know.
grant with the
once we
bank
have budget authority to
But
spend
yeah,
it, and
and stuff.
I don't know.
Anyway,
I think it'd be
I
easier to
gotta
keep
put
track of.
money in.
I mean, it's still a
tax.
general fund, but it has that restriction,
Are we ready?
Okay, so it's in this.
special use.
Yes.
What you need is, you need a certification.
Okay.
Oh, I know.
Okay.
Kind of certification.
Bandstand grant.
Handstand grant. Okay, this is due Monday, so I need
Does he need
your,
to be paying attention?
I got that. Okay.
Okay, he's paying attention now.
okay. Okay, it's due Monday. I need your signature as the owner of the park or the clerk. She said it doesn't really matter. But there's only one signature line, so. you
I wanna
guys-
do it.
Before you sign it.
Yes.
Don't read it.
Yeah, don't read it, but, the original, probable cost that we've got here has a new wood ramp on it, but we are in favor of not having a ramp on it and restoring it to its architectural originality.
Originality.
Now, the studio, Benmore Studio that we work with was originally hesitant to do that because we obviously don't want to get in trouble anywhere. However, she's gonna alter this so that it's, the pathway to the bandstand becomes ADA compliant. So handicap parking spot and a sidewalk up to the bandstand.
Definitely a side.
Okay, so that leaves like an opening for if we have a huge event or we have some need for it to be handicap accessible, we could rent a lift.
Oh.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
We are also gonna get a letter from SHPO that says the ramp is not, it's original and
Historically
accurate, which should be like an extra safety. So those two things should keep us fine. but I just wanted to give you guys a heads up on that.
Oh, should it be blue?
I think they have to be.
I don't think it matters. At this point, we're asking for about 60,000 from the Heritage Trust Fund grant. They go up to 90,000, so we're hoping that because we're the max, they'll go for us. They do not do much in Wabunsee County. I don't know that they've ever done a project in Wabunsee County.
High time they did.
And included in our quote is design fees and architectural design when we go to actually construct it. I don't know if you guys want to look at any of this stuff, feel free. We've paid Benmore for their services, and she's got the grant all written up. I meet with her tomorrow just to finalize, and she'll have that information about the sidewalk to the bandstand, which I'm on board with because I wanted it anyway.
What's their match requirement? Just curious.
It's an 80-20, and I think we have exactly what they
I'm
need.
sure my house wasn't on it.
Not counting what we're getting from Match Day. So what's coming from Match Day is going to be earmarked towards playground equipment next year. And there is also a rubber grant coming out for recycled tires. Have you seen that? Where we could possibly use it towards playground itself or the surfacing materials, which is something we were talking about.
That
Maybe
really
not
nice.
having, yeah, I'm
that
hoping. I'm
composite
trying.
kind
The
of
one I
thing.
just had just was rubber mulch, and I don't want that. So
Kids just bounce right off.
right, yes, that's what
Land on your
what
feet
we're
and keep on
aiming
running.
to achieve. We want the best.
I walked on one of those up in Minnesota and it sent my vertigo going crazy.
But it's so nice.
I know, I
It's
just grabbed onto
awesome.
Jessica, it's awesome.
So, and I think you can get tiles now, so that if something's damaged, you just replace a tile and not the entire surface or stuff like that. So that's what we're aiming for. So this for now, but with playground equipment being the next step, and then we're gonna kind of stair step until we can get the whole thing done.
I would like to see a toy in there before I die.
So you signed it, we're good?
Yep.
Awesome. If you wanna
Well,
see how
there you
awful it looks, you can see the existing conditions drawings right now. Which cost us a pretty penny, so. Anyway, to me, so we're turning it in. Hopefully we'll know by spring if we get approved or not.
Are we gonna need a new LMI survey? For
I
next
think we're
year's?
gonna have to start talking about getting that set up to do. Yeah.
We need to have
See if we can get
somebody
get
get a
a-
hold of KU and see if they'll come out here and do it for free.
Okay.
Or we could just each take.
I think we can start
And do it
getting a
ourselves.
committee for that too, volunteer group. If they don't, we can talk to them too though. But yes, I think LMI would be necessary because I feel like at some point in time, we're gonna hit a grant that will actually really do the rest of the part for us.
Well, our survey, the last index expires in a month, and I think that we should have another one done in case anything pops up in the next 5. That's how long it lasts.
Yeah,
think
I agree.
We need to be proactive and get on that.
Yeah, we
I
need to
agree.
have our hand out every year for something.
Right.
I mean, that's,
Just in case
Back
somebody
some of
comes
that
up and
money
says,
we
I
pay."
just found this grant that closes in a week.
Yeah.
That's happened so many times.
Let's not do that
That's the way the
anymore.
park grant was in 2015. I mean, it was just a hustle and it was,
Well, we did
Part of the
this over
fact
3
was-
months and I still feel like we didn't spend a ton of time, like, I feel like we're doing at the last minute, a few things.
Yeah.
I mean, she's gotten everything done for me and on time. We've hit every deadline, but I just feel like it's still not that much time for 3 months on a grant. So I don't know that we would go for anything that close to the deadline again.
Well, I wasn't referring to just simply.
No, I know, no, I know that.
Issues.
But yeah, I say we
Or whatever.
either
Survey.
talk to them or we put up a committee for just, or volunteer group for the LMI, because I think that's definitely necessary for us both. I think LMI will have to be necessary for the playground. There are a few grants available, and I think because we are low to moderate income, we would qualify much
I
faster.
would think so, at least
So,
the bank seems to think so.
I think that's all I actually had. I just wanted to make sure you were aware that we were applying for it and not putting a ramp back on.
Very good. Move to adjourn.
No.
Brett has something.
We have mayor, council concerns and comments.
I also have something with the park. The park board committee is gonna decorate the bandstand again, with lights and stuff. We borrowed a bunch of lights last year from different people, but this Here, I think it would be kind of easier if we just got all brand new lights. It's 80 feet around the bandstand, and we'll need like 160 feet of lights and then 120 feet of garland. And so I'm asking for the council to purchase the lights and garland for the bandstand this year. And the committee is gonna decorate it themselves, so the city doesn't have to decorate it, but.
Do you know how much the
Will it
lights
be
were?
under $500? Cause
I
I'm
should
sure
be
it will
close to
Well, you see, I
300.
could approve
I
that.
price quoted 5
Yeah.
different places yesterday, and it should be close to 300.
I think that's 100.
Ours had some LED strings for like
And
$297
that
So
was
you're saying
outdoors.
Menards had the best?
cheap.
And it was industrial, and they were the best
Yeah.
quality for the money. Was
Yeah.
And
Menards.
they reuse it every year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like we do
That's-
our other
I think it
decorations.
was 100 feet too. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know if that's the stylier one. I mean, it was just a simple,
Mhm.
you know, lights on a string without anything hanging down.
Yeah.
And if you do a really good job, we could rent out your services and, you could make money that way.
We do a really good job. They did a great
Amazing.
job at the
I mean,
last
there's
time.
people up
I
in
was
Minnesota
dying
that
last
pay
time,
people
okay?
to decorate their houses,
So
But
it's
if the
not fun.
council would consider purchasing the lights, it's something
Could I
that
have
we
a
can
motion on
use.
that? Let's do
Do we
it.
need a
So
price?
are you
Less than 500, do you
wanting,
need a motion?
You can do up to. if
are you
want
just
to.
wanting like the city to, like, are you guys gonna send something and you want me to order it? Do you want us to just look
What I
and
was
just
thinking is
order
we
best
would, one of us
option?
would purchase it, and then we would keep the receipt, and then
Get
it would be
reimbursed.
reimbursed back.
Okay, whatever.
Um,
I was just, yeah, I'm wondering.
Would that be the easiest? Is there an easier way?
That's as easy as any.
I think we're planning to
Yeah.
decorate Sunday, so I don't know
Yeah,
that ordering
so-
would be the best at this
Yeah,
point, 'cause
yeah.
it's a little late.
Then yeah,
Reimbursement.
that's what I was
Maybe it's gonna
trying
be
to.
over there.
Reimburse up to 400.
Okay,
Sounds good.
That's my motion.
I'll second.
all in favor?
Alright.
6.
Maybe
What,
we need to do a
I'm just curious.
competition.
what's going on in McGivern? Or whatever happened to that?
Oh, I was
Good
thinking about
question,
that
good
too.
question. I have heard nothing from the judge on that. So, I mean, the motion was a motion to dismiss. I suppose, and I've checked the rules, there isn't anything in Wabunsee County about being able to basically set up a scheduling order or conference. I suppose that's my next move is I've been expecting any time the judge to decide it. And normally you don't, I mean, the normal thought is you don't start yelling at the judge to give you a ruling because he may just do that.
Yeah.
So it has been too
You
long.
could stand him a can of, is it a pop? No, that would be not a wise idea.
Yeah, so I'm at my,
I was just curious because I've heard nothing in it.
and I'm surprised at that too. But what I think is probably the only thing that we can do at this point is I can make a request to have it set for a scheduling conference and or start issuing discovery. But, it's kind of a waste of some money to do all this stuff. He kind of, goes one way or the other that kind of blows somebody out of the water. Then you've done a lot of stuff. But I mean, I'm with you. I try to be patient about these things, but this is pretty crazy. So.
Does he have like a clerk or something that works for him that you could call them and just ask?
Yeah, well, they have court clerks, but I don't know that I mean, the instant I say that, they go, yeah, it's that Luckman. He wants you to get your,
No.
Yeah.
No.
So I'm gonna,
Take one of them out to eat or something, maybe.
I think the best-
Take that paper and put it back on the top of his.
I think the best, and I can do this.
Take that can.
I think the best prod would be to just make the motion to set it for a scheduling conference. And say, basically the scheduling conference, if he lets me have it, then I say, well, we've had this submitted. If you're not gonna decide it, let's just go. And that's what I think. So it's been on my mind. I've been waiting for decisions on a lot of these cases that I can't understand how judges can let it go. But again, it runs right into that theory.
So you need something from us, or is this
No.
just something to sit and wait?
No, I will, there's nothing you guys need to do.
Okay.
Except that understand that that's the process is unusually slow, and I don't know necessarily why.
As long as it's not dying.
So,
No, it's in great suspended animation, but I think you're right. We just need to push it along. And at a certain point, if we're not going to get, if we're going to be set into a tailspin or an endless litigation aspect of it, we may think of other remedies.
Dynamite.
Okay.
Good idea.
Jackhammer, exactly.
Wonder if he would let us borrow an extension cord.
Well, I was actually thinking that if you had public access nearby, it might be
I
nice,
know,
nice
it's on
public
camera,
beach,
right?
public party area.
We're joking.
Do you have any idea if we contacted Westar or is that who puts
No,
the
it's
wreaths up?
Everett.
The
It's
Christmas wreaths up?
Evergy.
Mike, yeah, he normally gets a hold of it,
Okay.
so.
I just wanted to make sure we did, because I know he normally does, but one year we all let it slide and we didn't get it done. And I've been
Oh, they
seeing
got it done,
Christmas
but it was
going
pretty
up in
late.
all the other towns, so I
Yeah.
just wanted to make sure we didn't let it slide this year.
I will
Glad you
bring
brought that up.
gallon
That was on my
bags
mental
and we
note
will have
that I
popcorn
forgot.
next time.
Speaking
Bring a
of
scoop.
energy, you know why there's a red light on top of the transformer in my house? The other pole has 3 transformers. That's
At
no
the
light,
store.
but there's one pole.
Is anybody on it?
One.
Literally.
Probably a CSP that's triggered that
Yeah,
right
that's
there
what I
inside of
did.
it.
It's one.
It's
that
an
we had
older
to have them
style,
go out there and
but-
put a new fuse in it, they
Yeah.
call it coal and they throw it up. We had to have
Well,
them
we'll
change
say
the fuse in it
something.
not too long ago. Now there's a red light on it.
Yeah, a lot of times those CSPs don't have fuses, but yeah, that's. If they've got the red light, then it's probably operated. And unless there's somebody on it, then I really don't have an explanation for it. So,
I'll move to adjourn.
All in favor? Now,
Okay,
popcorn, we
yes.
have little cups and bags, she says.
Good.
I'm not letting anybody dig in this with their hands, but we'll do it with, I just can't do it. I can't do
Okay,
it.
Mom.
I got a hole right here.
Sorry.
Hey.
Right, there you go.
Oh, don't forget that.
What?
Collect the money.
Yeah,
It
the
sounds
bank.
kind of empty.